All join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Keep the palms down. Good evening, everybody. Anyone here for the first time? Want to share why you're here? I probably should have said that before I asked who was here for the first time. What brings you here? Bill. It's his fault. What did he tell you to?
He invited everyone at our school, we're teachers, so he invited everyone at our school so that we can introduce more mindfulness and meditation to our classrooms.
So teachers are stressed out, really?
Only on Mondays.
Only on Mondays. Overworked, underpaid. Yeah, well, glad you're here. Thank you.
My friend Liz, we
Yeah.
trained triathlon together, and she invited me to come over and try.
Nice. Well, welcome. Anybody else here for the first time want to share why? Yeah.
I'm here, Jordan's been part of Dharma, so here learning.
Nice. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Jordan, you're still at it. Doesn't get any easier, does it? No. Anyone else new for the first time? Maybe from Chicago or anything? Want to share why you're here? All right. Yeah, the practice, I always talk about that, but it doesn't necessarily get easier. So if you are here for the first time and thinking that meditation or Buddhist practice is all of a sudden just going to like magically fix everything, doesn't really work that way. It's a challenge. It's a constant challenge. It's a daily practice. Unfortunately, the entire world outside these walls, and inside these walls for that matter, are never going to do everything that we want them to do. And since the entire world is not going to function under our own individual rules as much as we wish they would, we're going to have constant conflict and struggles and challenges throughout our day. And so the meditation practice just helps you become aware of that. And when you become aware of the difficulties and conflicts in your lives and you actually look at them very honestly, very openly, very authentically, sometimes it makes it more challenging because we don't usually want to sit with things as we're challenged. We often want to quickly fix them and remedy them and run away from them. And this practice is really just like holding up a mirror and looking back at your own mind, your own thoughts, your own words, your own actions. And that's what makes it difficult, because it's so much easier to blame everybody else, right? So we'll start with a meditation practice. A couple things to tell you before we begin. If you are sitting for the first time, nothing's going to happen to you. Right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. Anyone's mind race all day long, just thinking and thinking and thinking, doesn't shut off, right? This won't shut off your racing mind, unfortunately. You won't think nothing. Often people think meditation is about thinking nothing. You'd end up sitting there telling yourself, think nothing, think nothing, think nothing, and you'd end up going blank, right? Wasting your time. So you won't think nothing. The mind won't go blank. Don't judge your practice. We judge things all day long, what we look like, what we wear, what we eat. We're constantly in this judgment mode. And the practice of meditation is learning to go beyond judgment and just abide in sensation of breath. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on the cushions, often it helps sliding to the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten slightly. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you're on the chairs, also just trying to sit up straight. Hands on the knees or lap. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. It just means your leg hurts. If you have to cough, simply sit right there and cough. If anything, you just woke somebody up, so thank you very much. Right? I suggest closing the eyes if comfortable or slightly open. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence, and we'll be done by midnight. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Knowing throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. These are not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding your attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply going to continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice. Simply sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing, but sitting, breathing. affairs of your mind. Lost in thought. Return to breath. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind training to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do. nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, or a racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. Has nothing to do with how you sit, hold the hands, or cross the legs. Has nothing to do with the Buddhist statue, or incense, or anything else for that matter. Has everything to do with your own mind, and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being no different than anyone in this room who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for every one of us in this room, regardless of where we come from, what we believe in, where we think we're going, our whole life is filled with things that happen, and we react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that happens throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. Most of you won't even make it out of this room before you're disturbed by someone, right? This practice is not easy. Meditation, Buddhist practice, training the mind to be present is probably the most difficult thing you'll ever have to do in your entire life. But it's free. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, what you do, and learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else every moment of your entire life. And that's why it's so simple. You just have to be nice to people. We can all do that, right? I mean, look how nice you're being to everybody in this room. You know? You're all this way to everybody all day long, outside of here, right? That's what I thought. This practice is a challenge. We spend so much time trying to fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. So much time trying to control others. And yet we spend very little time working on our mind and our reaction to the world around us. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything else, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to what's already happening, life gets simpler. But it takes time. As I alluded to earlier, it's not a quick fix. It's not a 6-week course and everything is better. It's not my life sucks, I'm going to go meditate and make everything okay. It will make you become aware of any sort of stress, anger, anxiety, sadness, depression, discomfort, dissatisfaction, angst. The Buddha called this dukkha. Any sort of suffering you have in your life, this practice will make you become aware of it. And you learn to be with it. You learn to understand that it will pass. There'll be more waiting for you. It will pass. There will be wonderful, happy moments. It will pass. There will be suffering. It will pass. There will be more beautiful moments. That will pass. And your entire life is just moment to moment to moment experiences and our views and judgments of them. Often we complicate the practice. Lots to read, a lot of different traditions. I mean, if you can say Buddhist words in other languages, then clearly you understand Buddhism, right? To me, everything I've learned from this practice, my parents taught me when I was 5 years old. I just didn't pay attention, right? Fast forward 30 years, you wrap it up in a bundle called Buddhism, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, this whole mindfulness thing, this is cool. You know? Try not to complicate it. Simplify it. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That's the essence of this practice. So I'd rather just stop there. And as always, I'd much prefer to just respond to questions that anybody might have, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that's on your mind, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
The opening, you mentioned, or part of the ritual of opening is taking refuge in 3 things. And
Yes.
I get 2 out of 3 now. So, how do you take refuge in the Buddha?
Did you say, how do you take refuge in the Buddha?
Because I get the other 2
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the beginning, and for me, you know, the way I was trained in this practice, and every Buddhist tradition, every lineage, every culture does things a little bit differently. But very common in just about every Buddhist practice I've ever been exposed to, you do at the beginning as a formal offering of what's called, and this is just for everybody who might be new or have no idea what this question is about, you do what's called taking refuge. And you take refuge in what's called the triple gem. And so at the beginning I join palms, and for me it's very important, right? It's something that I do day in and day out as just a reminder of my practice and my path and my journey with, you know, how Buddhism has impacted my life. And the first thing is to understand, again, for everybody here, the word refuge. What does refuge mean to you? Just throw out some words. Safety, what else? Home, protection.
Solace.
You all said that at the same time, I missed it.
Solace.
Solace,
Comfort.
comfort, right? Safety, comfort, protection, solace, home, right? So the word refuge means different things to different people. So it's important to understand what that word means to you. Not what it means by my definition or by anyone else's definition, but what is refuge to you? It's important to explore that, because if you're going to take refuge in something, right, forget what the thing is. First understand what refuge means to you and why you seek it, right? And so the first one in the Triple Gem is to take refuge in the Buddha, which is your question, because you can understand Dharma and Sangha, which I'll get to in a minute. Buddha is, in essence, you're taking refuge in what's called bodhicitta, or Buddha nature, right? The Buddha lived 2,500 years ago, 500 years before Christ. He was a wonderful human being. He lived, he died. He can't save you. He can't fix you. Worshipping him, praising him, taking refuge in him won't do you any good, right? We bow to these metal statues or whatever they're made of, and it might look from kind of an outside perception, if you're new to this stuff, that we're like praising or worshiping this image, right? What we are doing is we're taking refuge in Buddha nature that lies in all of us. The Buddha was a human being. He woke up every day. He ate, not much, but he ate. He slept, went to the bathroom, right? That's what we do. We wake up, we eat, probably too much. We sleep, we go to the bathroom. That's our lives. So taking refuge in Buddha nature is to recognize that if the Buddha as a human could figure out how to end his suffering, or as I like to say, suffer less, right? I don't wake up every day thinking, when am I going to end my suffering? I wake up thinking, can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? And so to know that one human, one person could suffer less, I find comfort in that. To me, that's a very beautiful thing to take refuge in. The other thing to take refuge in with regards to bodhicitta or Buddha nature is all of us. Someone asked the question Saturday morning what the proper way was to greet a Buddha, right? A statue. Very formal, kind of ritual type question. Wonderful question, which I didn't even answer, right? My response, and I'll just bring it up because I think it's relevant here, when we look at taking refuge in Buddha nature that's within all of us, that doesn't mean just me. It's not, I want to take refuge in only my Buddha nature. To the question of how do you greet the Buddha statue, my response was, how do you greet the person on the road who cut you off? How do you greet the person at Starbucks who didn't put enough pumps of latte or whatever you wanted? Your foam isn't done properly, right? How do you greet the person at the grocery store who's moving too slow through the checkout line because they're writing a check, right? Whatever it might be. Take refuge in Buddha nature is that every single person in this room has Buddha nature, the potential to awaken to their own Buddha nature. And another way to look at it is, if you met the Buddha, how would you treat him, right? And why would we treat anybody any differently, right? So that's taking refuge in the Buddha. Does that help clarify that piece?
Somewhat.
Where are you still stuck?
I'm not sure, but I think I'm pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's wonderful. My first master always said, don't look for answers, just change your questions. So I'm glad you're pointed in the right direction. You'll have 4 days to ponder it and come back with another question. So thank you. The second one, just to kind of finish the thought for those who are new, to take refuge in the Dharma, right? Dharma, capital D, is ultimate truth. But it's not truth spoken by the Buddha. He was just a human being. It wasn't a god or goddess. He was just a human, right? It was true nature of reality. In essence, that the entire world is different from how we perceive it to be. All of us look at one thing, and we think that our perception of that one thing is correct or accurate, when in fact everybody is looking at that same thing and has their own perceptions and their own views, right? What is this? You've probably seen this one, haven't you? What is this?
Bowl.
A bowl. What else? Pete, I know you've seen it. What? A bell. Anybody else want to guess what this is? Don't give away my tricks, right? It's all kinds of stuff, right? So what is it now?
Hat.
It's a hat, right? But it went from a bowl, a bell, to a hat. Because that's how we use it. And so everything in life is contingent upon how we perceive it and how we use it. and what our relationship to it is. And everybody does that with everything. So ultimate truth is really beyond our perception. And I don't suggest or think that anybody's going to roam around all day long. I mean, how many of you have views and opinions? Right? How many of you think your views are correct? I mean, we don't roam around thinking, yeah, that's my view, I'm wrong. Hi, I'm Jeff, all my views are wrong. But Thich Nhat Hanh, the great master, would say, nirvana, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views. And again, I don't think that means we're going to stop having views, right? You're all having views of what I'm saying right now. But the reality is, are we attached to our views? And do we recognize that every human being in the world has their own views? Every conflict in the world starts with two people, two sides, two countries, two whatever, having different views, right? So Dharma, capital D, is ultimate truth, true nature of reality, beyond our perception or view. The other Dharma is the teachings. It's what the Buddha taught. He roamed around for 45 years, right? Left home when he was 29, roamed the base of the Himalayan mountains for 6 years. At 35, awakened. They called him the Buddha, the awakened one, and he taught for 45 years. And everything he taught is considered or called or referenced as Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. And the third one is the community. We take refuge in the Sangha. And that's the community of people we sit with, we practice with, right? They challenge us, hold us responsible, hopefully inspire, motivate us to continue to practice. If nothing else, for the most part, the people you're around Sangha with, you're really nice to them. Are you really nice to everybody else who's not in what your immediate Sangha is? And then ultimately what you want to try to practice is to recognize that everywhere you go, that 805 freeway at 5 o'clock, that's your Sangha. Good luck with that. Triple gem. Other questions? Yeah.
I don't understand the transfer of merit.
We're not even there yet. So, transfer of merit. So you've heard it, but you're just not sure what it's about?
Whoa, so my idea of karma is cause and effect.
Right.
That's the way I understand it. We may not understand why the effect comes, but we know what causes it, and we try to avoid it. And then there's transfer of merit. It's kind of, in my mind, it's me eating and wishing that you weren't hungry anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's many levels to that question. Let me start with karma again, just for anybody who might be new or not kind of understand this, kind of the essence of this practice. Karma is one of the most, I think, misunderstood words in a kind of Western context. We often think karma is what goes around comes around, right? Or if I do good, good happens. Or if I do bad, bad happens. Anyone done anything good and bad things happen to you? Anyone done anything bad and good things happen to you? So you can throw that out the window, right? There was a comic I saw a while back where there's this person sitting here and he's got like these Stonehenge things and a domino effect and he's pushing it this way. And it shows them all falling as if it was going to come back and land on him. And underneath it says karma, right? Absolutely not what karma is. That's a very selfish view of karma. That looks at karma as if it's all about me. And I hate to break it to you, but your life, it's not all about you, right? Karma's understanding, and this is critical when you look at the Buddhist teachings, and I'll get to the transfer of merit in a minute. It's critical to understand that, I use the metaphor of if you're playing pool, right? You hit the cue ball into the rack. Every time you hit the cue ball into the rack, every ball goes into a different direction. Our life, we are that cue ball. The Buddha taught we generate karma 3 ways: what we think, what we say, and what we do. So, to me, some of the wisest practitioners and teachers and great masters, they move slow, they talk slow. I don't know, I'm guessing they think slow, but who knows, really, right? I can't do any of those things slowly, so I don't know what any of that's like, right? But we generate karma, body, speech, mind, what we think, what we say, and what we do. And then the question is, how do we interact with people? And when we are that cue ball going through our day, are we aware, right, of how we're impacting them? And often we roam around thinking what we do, how does it impact us? Karma is not what we get. Karma is what we give. And it's really important, I think, as a practitioner to understand the difference between those two things. Karma is not what comes back to you. Karma is, yes, back to your question, Jordan, the law of cause and effect, right? Every cause has an effect. That effect, in essence, becomes another cause, which has an effect. And that cycle continues endlessly, right? Never ends. So the question around the transfer of merit, for those who aren't familiar with what that is, at the end, and we'll do it here, I always say we join palms and we transfer merit. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. This is something for me, again, in my tradition, which really comes out of a Pure Land Buddhist tradition. When you look at cultural Buddhism, there's a lot of faith. There's a lot of beliefs in Pure Lands, right? In heavenly realms, in hell realms. And when the Buddha taught, it was an endless continuation of consciousness. Right? If you went up to somebody on the street 500 years, when the Buddha was born, 500 years before Christ, and said you got one life and then you're going to heaven or hell, they would have thought you were kind of crazy. You go up to somebody today and tell them you're going to be reborn, I think you're nuts. So the Buddha was teaching at a completely different time in a different audience than what we're living in today. Endless gods and goddesses. So for the transfer of merit, for me, coming from a Pure Land practice, and that merit, that karma that we accrue, right? The idea is with thought, with intention. We send that to others. We share that with others. If one doesn't believe in that, that's fine, right? The Buddha said, question everything. Don't believe in things just because he said it. Try it. For me, there are many things from what I call cultural Buddhism that might not intellectually make sense to me, but I find them beautiful practices to me that when I'm ending, to think about any karma that I might have accrued that might have been beneficial to my life, let others have that. So I see it as a beautiful practice of recognizing that others are suffering and struggling. And I'm pretty fortunate, I'm pretty blessed, I'm pretty privileged. And so any karma or merit, and again, merit very specific, a lot with cultural Buddhism, any merit that I may accrue, I'm going to give it all away. The funny thing is, the whole practice of giving is that as you give, then comes back, right? And then you give more away. And then it comes back even more. And it's just an endless cycle, Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, and I usually don't make things so personal, but I thought it was funny. Someone who's kind of watched really from the outside what we've done with Dharma Bums for the last 12 years, but really had no idea what this was, showed up and it's like, I've known you for like 10 years and you've never wanted anything, and look at everything you got. So, yeah. Other questions? Yes? Oh, yes. So, if you didn't hear in the back, she's having trouble making peace with the idea of impermanence. I love the way questions are phrased, because forget having trouble, forget making peace with the word idea of impermanence. Have you at least embraced the fact that it's inevitable? Okay, I just wanted to clarify. It's almost in the way you ask it as if it might not be a real thing.
I thought it'll pass.
It'll pass, right? Impermanence will pass. Yes, impermanence will pass. It's one of the core fundamental Buddhist teachings is that, everything that comes together for a period of time ceases to exist. All conditioned phenomena will come together and then fade away, right? So at least knowing that you understand that, then we can back up to the first part of your question, which is you're having trouble making peace with it. Yes, you are. And I'm very happy that you are aware of that. I did a talk, what is today? Tuesday, so Sunday night with the college group. And, we had our smaller kind of active chapter, maybe 30, 40 people there. And I talked for an hour on suffering, because that's the first thing the Buddha taught. Doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means you're going to suffer. Discomfort, dissatisfaction, angst, etc. You're going to experience heavy suffering and minimal suffering, you know? Death, loss, loved ones, you know, your latte being made the wrong way, your team losing, you know, your shirt not looking the way you want it to, whatever it might be, little things that really could cause like 3 hours of suffering, right? So, when we focus on suffering, it's important to recognize that it's there. But it doesn't mean we're always going to be stuck there, right? Often we come together in kind of Buddhist circles and we put on happy faces, you know, a namaste face, and we think everything's going to be all, you know, joyful. And life is rough, right? And part of the rough, you know, the roughness of life is impermanence. That everyone in your life right now, including you, family, loved ones, friends, animals, right, will be gone. And so the challenge, I feel, is not to ever think that I need to be at peace with that. You may never be at peace with that. This practice is not about losing loved ones and thinking, oh, well, I'm a Buddhist, so that doesn't matter. No, it hurts, right? It's painful. It breaks our heart. We cry. We feel these emotions. We feel devastated. We feel destroyed, right? All of those things are real human emotions that are beautiful to have. I think the most important thing about impermanence is once you fully embrace that everything in your life and everyone in your life will be gone at some point in time, then maybe that will motivate and inspire you to take nothing for granted, to waste zero time, to forgive the people that maybe have caused you to feel harm, to call the people that you're upset with that mean a lot to you, but you're holding on to it for 7 years or 30 years, right? Whatever it might be. We have a lot of different ages in here, so, you know. That's the real part of impermanence, I think, that is beneficial in practice. You may never make peace with it, but can you use that to inspire you to appreciate and have endless gratitude for everyone and everything in your life right now?
I think it also moves in the other direction, though.
In what sense?
All of the positives, all of the good things that I'm striving for, like, all of that is also.
Yes. Everything is impermanent. But it doesn't mean that you stop striving for it. You know, again, working a lot with younger folks, college age, you know, Buddhist practice doesn't mean that, like, you know, you stop taking exams. It's like, oh, I'm Buddhist now. I don't need to graduate, right? Well, yeah, you probably should graduate. You know, you don't call mom and dad and say, well, I'm going to my Buddhist thing, so I'm going to drop out of school now. No, the practice of diligence is important. Work extremely hard at what this question comes up a lot around goals, right? How do you balance Buddhist practice with goals and lifelong plans? You can have goals and you can have lifelong plans, right? But some of them will work and you will meet them. And some of them you will fail miserably. Was it ever your goal 5 years ago to be sitting at the Dharma Bum temple on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock? Probably not. And here you are. Meaning there are things that are going to happen in your life that are out of any realm of possibility of even entering your mind right now, that are going to be beautiful. And you don't plan for them. Right? Stay present. Work hard on everything you're doing. Have those goals, have those dreams. But when you maybe don't get some of them, maybe it's a beautiful thing as well. Does that kind of address that side of things? Yeah, definitely. It's tough. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions? Meditation, yeah.
I
I'm 19, so this isn't really relevant
Right.
to me right now,
Totally.
but,
That's why I didn't say 30, clearly you hadn't been holding on to it for 30 years,
I've been thinking a lot about, creating, artificial intelligence that is conscious and thus suffers, and whether or not it's possible, it's interesting to think about and talk about, and it begs the question of, whether or not bringing about conscious beings is necessarily bad, because bringing about conscious beings is necessarily bringing about suffering. And I just am wondering what the Buddha might have said if he talked about having kids, what implications it might have. I know there are, many paths that are, or actions that are morally permissible without necessarily being the best moral option. So, one can just follow the 5 precepts and not be necessarily causing harm, but not necessarily progressing along the path to, unbinding. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was with you up until, I heard I am 19. After that, I just wanted to let you go. I got nothing to say to that, man. Your kids, simplify that for me, right? I discovered last week how smart you were, and so once you said I'm 19, after that, I'm gone. I don't get it, right? Kids, you want me to talk about kids? Yeah. What about kids? Put that in like a 43-year-old University of Arizona graduate language.
Like attachment, maybe?
Hang on.
It's a question of whether or not creating consciousness in the form of children
So,
is
you want to know if having kids is okay? Is that what you're asking me?
what
Is it best? Is what? Okay, that I can address, right? So, thanks. No, and I'm sure the way you said it was perfect. I just didn't get it, Having kids, right? So, it's always important to understand that, as I alluded to earlier, when the Buddha was teaching, he was teaching to an audience where they all believed in rebirth. Every one of them, for the most part, right? How many of you showed up here tonight because you want to make sure you have a positive rebirth? One, the same dude asking the question, and a couple others, right? So you should get this then, right? It's important, especially if you're brand new to Buddhism, that when he was teaching, he wasn't teaching Buddhism to a bunch of people who wanted to make sure they could get through initially, really, with the monks. It wasn't about just making sure their life was happy and that they got everything they wanted and that they were able to deal with all their, traumas and stressors, and they were practicing to end suffering. And the only way, by definition, looking at the Buddhist teachings very technically, to end suffering was to stop being born, right? So, working through your question, part of it could be, well, if I know that someone is going to be born, that they're going to suffer, should I maybe stop bringing people into this world, right? This world can be a beautiful place. Humans are incredible, right? And I think that if we look at that, especially, we're sitting here in a room with 80 lay people. We're not monks. We're not nuns. We're not, we live our lives. And the Buddha taught, sure, initially to monks and to nuns and a monastic community, and then to lay people. Right? The Buddha himself was also married before he left home with a child. Who did he go back to teach and to share the teachings with? His wife and his child. Right? I can't make any comments on, whether, I can't even comment on the depth of your question, but I think that life is a beautiful thing. And if one chooses, a renunciate path and chooses to, go down that life of, monastic path and the celibate path and to not have family, then one chooses to do that. But 99% of all the people in the world that I ever sit with around Dharma are not that. We're trying to bring this practice into you're a 19-year-old kid at UCSD, right? Good luck with that for a while. Keep the questions, they're beautiful. But before you try to solve whatever you're pondering right now, see if you can go through tomorrow, forget tomorrow, the rest of tonight, and be nice to every person you encounter. I know it's fun to look at Buddhism intellectually and to really look at the depths of the Vinaya, the precepts and the code of conduct set by the Buddha and how that impacts your life today. But that's not your life today. So to think about Buddhism in a way that is of anything removed from our present life, I just don't find too much value in that. I look at Buddhism as how is it going to impact my life and the life of those around me immediately. And you'll probably stumble upon the answer that you're asking yourself eventually with continued practice and exploration of these teachings, which will and do, I know, move you very deeply, very genuinely. And I can tell from all of the 20 minutes that I spoke with you last week that you have a very, very beautiful heart towards this practice, and it means a lot to you. So balance it. Yeah. You ever met Travis? Travis, will you raise your hand? Chat with that guy. I'll just leave the intro at that. All right? Thank you. Yeah. Glad I answered your question. Anything else? One more and then we'll close.
I just want to say thank you.
Oh, well,
No question.
thank you.
Very grateful.
That one I can handle. See how easy that was? Thank you. My pleasure. It was a hand in the back. We'll close on that. As much as I'd love to close on the thank you.
So
Yes.
the last question is just, and you helped me to see this, of course, go beyond this, but and you say it all the time, this is an opportunity, we should not take advantage of our lives, but it seems that being born gives us the opportunity to improve our karma.
Yes.
By bringing a child in the world, we're actually possibly giving that child the opportunity to improve their karma.
I knew I should have ended with thank you. I was like, Corey's got his hand up in the back. Don't. Yeah.
That's just the thing that
Yeah.
came to mind,
Yeah. And that's Corey. The three of you should have lunch tomorrow. Yeah. But I will say, and I'll close with this thought very truly, that I understand your point, and I can understand where that might kind of make sense of thinking that bringing someone into the world is, but that's, you can't go there. To think that we are bringing people into the world to give them the opportunity to work on their karma, I strongly suggest you stay far away from that thought, Yeah. Jim, you're going to end on something gentle? Yeah.
It all has to do with intention.
Yes.
What are you intending to do? Why are you intending to do it? And that will change everything.
Yes. What he said. I think we're going to end up, are you still going to go with the artificial intelligence thing, or are we moving away from it? No. Okay, go ahead.
No, there's two things. I just think that I'm hearing a lot of deflection, kind of. I feel like I would be more worried about the right now and how to improve my life. The other thing I wanted to say, not to freak everybody out, but this is an active shooter in Hillcrest. I saw it on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. So everybody be careful. Yeah. And that will be a perfect opportunity to transfer merit to that individual. To show you, to me at least, the depth of what this practice has taught me. So we'll join palms as we close. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to any individual who may be causing harm or suffering at this moment to others. May this individual be at peace. and free from suffering. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So a few quick announcements before you all head out. Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this little temple 12 years ago, initially downtown, to introduce Buddhist practice to local folks. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it in terms that hopefully make sense to others. As I like to say, we're unenlightened folks leading other unenlightened folks. No offense to any of you enlightened people in the room. Just about every night we have different practices going on, different Buddhist traditions. Every Thursday, 5 o'clock, we do a food redistribution program. I think it's one of the best things around here. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals with picking up food that would have been wasted or thrown away, and we prepare whatever we can to feed some of the people sleeping on the streets in downtown San Diego. So it's a wonderful practice. Just show up any Thursday, 5 o'clock. It's a great way to give back. Prison outreach. We have family groups. As you heard coming upstairs, we do about 4 or 5 days a week a recovery sangha. So anyone battling addiction, quite a large community we have here, using the Buddhist teachings for that as well. Out of the ordinary coming up, I think the only thing is our usual Friday night, movie night, and we're showing The Truman Show. So if you haven't seen it, actually we're showing Groundhog Day again. No, I'm just kidding. The Truman Show, Friday night at 7. We're doing movies now every Friday night. Dharma Bum Theater presents. So if you want to come check that out, it's a phenomenal film. And one more announcement. We are starting next week. The 18th is the Dharma Bum Life program. It's a 10-week program with a very select group that went through a grueling interview process to be chosen to be in the Dharma Bum Life program. And so with that being said, for 10 weeks, we will put on hold the Monday night Zen group and the Thursday night Dharma Bum Basics group. The recovery groups that meet downstairs Mondays and Thursdays, they will continue. But the Zen group, so for all you wonderful Zen practitioners, you get to deal with your anger and frustration and attachment to sitting here on Monday nights. And for those of you who are all wonderful disciples of the great Travis, you can find him online somewhere, and actually he'll be here on Thursdays. So that'll pick up once the program's over. So thanks all for being here. And again, if you are headed to Hillcrest, from what was shared, please just be safe. So thank you all. Good night.